Iowa Theme Park Podcast number 1, Adventureland's Mike Krantz. It's time for the Iowa Theme Park Podcast with your hosts Nick McMahon and Jack Sailsbury. In this episode, their special guest is Adventureland Iowa's President and CEO, Mike Krantz.
Thank you for joining our first episode of the Iowa Theme Park Podcast. I'm Nick McMahon.
I'm Jack Sailsbury.
Joining us today is Mike Krantz, President and CEO of Adventureland Park in Altoona, Iowa. Thank you for joining us, Mike. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
This is just a real treat to have you on. First episode, too.
I'll start with our first question. Mike, we know that staffing shortages have really hurt the industry the past couple of years. Each time we visited the park this year, the park really seemed well-staffed with most amenities open. How do you guys manage to handle this so well?
2021 has certainly been the most challenging year for employment, not only in our industry, but I think pretty much industry-wide in the service and hospitality and entertainment industries. We're fortunate in that we never put all of our chips into one pot. We have 4 very distinct tiers of employees or types of employees. We have our work campers, the retirees. They've been a great staple. We have our international students from all over the world, heavy in the Caribbean, heavy in South America, Eastern Europe, et cetera, that come in for the seasonal parts of our business. We have the 14 and 15-year-old demographic, which is unique in and of itself in that most businesses won't even hire that age range, but we are capable of doing that. And I think that's a lot of our success is coming from those 14 and 15-year-olds because they become your 17, 18-year-olds later on down the road. And then we've got our local team members that come in from all over central Iowa. And so because we really didn't dive too heavily into one of those, or a couple of those, we've spread it pretty evenly. We've been able to at least manage the situation as best we can. And I appreciate you saying that we've had most things open. We've had a lot of things closed, and we never want to do that, but from a safety standpoint, from a production standpoint, from a quality standpoint, we tried to open as much as we could without reducing the quality of the things that existed.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer there. It definitely showed like most rides open, most food venues open. It's pretty impressive to see that when you saw complaints on other parks' Facebook pages about how the lines were a mile long and it took 3 hours to get food. I don't think we waited more than 5 minutes to get food on all of our visits to the park. And we made several weekend visits, so it's very good to see.
I think that is compliments to our foods directors who really are in the mix more than maybe some other parks are, where your sub sandwich may be made by our foods buyer that day. He's not afraid to get hands dirty doing what they need to do.
Whenever we were down there, I don't think I ever saw any rides closed for staffing reasons, except for my beloved Sky Ride. Sure.
And, the Sky Ride's a unique beast in that it requires 6 to 8 employees. And so when we start to get short, that's an easy way to us to make up numbers pretty quickly. We tried to keep it open as much as we could in the morning until about 3:30, just to kind of shuttle people from the front to the back. But those PM shifts were a little tight this year, certainly.
I guess moving on to the next question. What was it like growing up at Adventureland? You came up in your family that owned it. I mean, it has owned it forever. So what was it like being a part of that growing up?
It certainly made for an interesting childhood. Because it was the only business I really knew, I guess I never really felt that I grew up any differently than anyone else did, because it was just what we did. I didn't know there was something different than that. Looking back on it today, I learned to swim with dolphins in our dolphin pond back in the day. I used to play catch with the sea lions, things like that, which today I recognize as being unusual. But at the time, that was my everyday. And so that's kind of what we did.
Very cool.
Kind of branching off of that, how does all of those experiences that you've had growing up, how does that affect how you run it now?
There's certainly a lot of passion and pride in what we've built. If you've been around it your whole life, this is our thing. This is what we're really proud of. watching the industry grow to be able to bring parts of that growth back to Adventureland, back to Iowa, is something that we really pride ourselves on. We want the Dragon Slayer type ride, the new, fun, intrinsically technical ride that naturally wouldn't probably be in a park in our demographic otherwise.
Very good.
Sure.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, guess the hat's kind of out of the bag now. I'm on the younger side, clearly. And just growing up at the park, it's great to see. I wasn't around to see it like when it opened, but seeing the improvements now and looking back, it's like we're definitely in the golden age of Adventureland at the moment.
For sure.
You are certainly in the renaissance of what we're trying to build.
Was there ever a time where you didn't want to work at the park? Like maybe it wasn't the career path you wanted to take, or it wasn't what you wanted to do for a living?
I mean, growing up, I think I wanted to be a dinosaur. I wanted to be a farmer for a while. I wanted to be a police officer. I think that's natural stages for any boy in Iowa.
Train conductor.
Yeah, train conductor. That being said, I think everybody has a bad day or even like a bad week, but generally speaking, I've never had an inclination to do anything other than what I'm doing.
Piggybacking off of that question again, when did you take over as CEO, and did you have a clear vision when that happened? And if you did have a clear vision, have you been able to fulfill that as of yet?
So I took over the CEO position in 2013 after my mother's passing in August of that year. That was shortly after, just shortly before we finalized the Storm Chaser contracting. We as a family had a real choice to make about whether we wanted to continue operating our business or if we wanted to really invest in it. And collectively, we decided to double down on what our parents really created and make a substantial investment in excess of about $50 million in the last 8 years or so. And I think there's more to come. Okay.
Jeez, that's just crazy amounts of money. I can't even imagine.
Well, and I got to tell you, if nobody's told you this, it shows. We had a short little stint where I wasn't going to the park because I was finding myself, and all that. Now that I'm a married adult with a child, it's definitely a change from the 10 years that I had been away from the park. Substantial change, and you can really tell that your investment is beautifying the park and making it better than it ever was. And that kind of leads me into the next question of what did the process of getting Dragon Slayer look like?
It's always hard to replace a ride that people have become so accustomed to seeing. That being said, we wanted something that replaced the ride elements of the Dragon with a twist, or I guess in this case, a spin. We also knew about what size footprint we wanted to work with to ensure that we had space for future expansion plans in that area around where the Dragon existed.
With a little bit of a follow-up question on that, we know that was this all planned to happen right away, or did the pandemic kind of make that go a little bit quicker in terms of it was like, okay, we're going to start constructing this right at the heel of the season starting since we're not open yet?
No, the pandemic definitely assisted in literally nothing other than creating Dragon Slayer a little faster than maybe what we would have done normally. We had that extra time, so we spent that time doing the deconstruction and groundwork on the new coaster.
Was Dragon ever going to be open last year?
No.
What should we be expecting for next year or the year after that, if you can tell us?
So certainly next year, I'd tell you to reference the Facebook page of Adventureland, and you can see that video with our 9 new attractions. Plus, we have the Des Moines Renaissance Fair moving into our property, which we're all pretty excited about. As for 2023, you'll just have to wait a little bit.
Awesome. I think a lot of people would be pretty upset with me if I didn't ask, is Tornado ever going to be RMC'd?
It's not currently on the docket to RMC the Tornado. That being said, it's certainly not the worst concept for a tornado revamp at some point down the road. We're just not quite there yet. I think we have some other gaps we still need to fill in our lineup.
Okay.
Is there any chance that in, I don't know, I guess forever from now, will we ever see any other Adventurelands in America or outside of it?
There's always a chance. Nothing, again, currently in the works on that end. We've had talks with some parks around us from time to time over the years about potentially expanding our business into other states. One of the hardest things for me to consider, I guess, is that it'd be really hard to split up the team that we've created. Average staff team member is probably in that 15 to 20 year range. These are people that have basically grown up together, and it'd be really tough to tell 6 of them that they needed to go to some other place to run a new park. We're real happy with the group we have. We're a real tight niche group, and when your professional and your personal lives kind of collide, but in a very peaceful manner, and everybody gets along, and I'd hate to throw a wrench in that.
Sure. Where do you see the park that we have going in the next 15 years, for example?
So 15 years in our industry is probably a little hard to say. Technology changes. The world changes. Businesses change. It's the inevitable evolution of the world we live in. That being said, I see continued rapid growth in our specific business, especially in comparison to what the industry as a whole, that's still just reeling from 2020. And I think we're in a better position than a lot of parks are to be able to continue to expand, to continue to build, versus the industry at all.
I think
sure. I mean,
excellent answer.
Yeah, there's tons of parks that aren't even able to open their new additions for 2020 yet. And here you are building new coasters and almost 10 new rides. And
you got World of Fun. I don't think they've had a new ride since 2013. I can't remember the exact facts on that, but it's been a while since I've had something, and 3 coasters in about 6 years time frame. It's impressive.
We've certainly tried to listen to the people who come to the park, our patrons, our guests, and what they want. And we really try to provide that ultimately. It may not be as quickly as they want it, or it may not be exactly the same way they want it, but we really do listen to comments and commentary.
Do you think Monster will be the headliner at the park for a long time, or are there plans to build something on a similar scale in the future? And I know we've kind of talked about it's hard to predict the future in your business. When we crafted this question, that was kind of a concept that wasn't clear to us yet. So
your question really is the Monster going to be the biggest, baddest thing for a long time?
Basically.
Yeah.
No, it won't be.
Okay.
Well, that's great to hear. There's one person out there that's just dying to know, will the front gate ever be updated?
Yes, it will be. In fact, the front gate, our website, our basically everything in that end of the world will be updated at the end of this year. So you'll see a whole new setup in 2022 for the front gate, for payment, for reservations, everything.
That is great to hear.
Very cool.
The faded paint looks nice, but it'll be nice to have something a little new.
It'll just be restructured a little more efficient, especially given, again, nuances in technology. Technology is amazing in our industry. It allows us to do a lot of things that we never really thought we could do. And now those doors have opened up for us, and we're really happy to be able to provide the ease of transaction for guests as much as we can.
If you don't mind me kind of following up on that a little bit, one of the things that's hard for me is, as a season pass holder who has a little bit of a drive to get to the park, And I know the lines can be really long, so they encourage early processing. With those updates is the ability for me to do more of the legwork from home in the future, or is that still kind of going to look pretty similar to how it does today?
Legwork like how?
Like maybe having my picture uploaded already, things like that.
Yes, that is definitely something that will happen next year. The season pass process totally revamped to a much more in your own house. You can do the bulk of that work. All we have to do is just verify things.
Very cool.
Nice. So the last question that we have up here, how much does the Facebook page that we're a part of, how much does that influence what you do in the future, and how often do you guys look at that or look to that for inspiration?
So obviously I contribute from time to time to the unofficial page. We really enjoy reading theories and banter between folks on there about what may or may not happen, and you know, for however much it entertains us, because, you know, I mean, the general population won't know why we did what we did. There's generally an underlying reason. It's not like we just wave our magic wand and do things just for fun. But we actually do take suggestions from that page and put them into practice from time to time to understand, you know, any way we can understand more of our guests' experiences, the better we can be as a service industry business, providing them what they're asking for. If people ask for things, reasonable things, not necessarily RMCing the tornado, but
that's
we're pretty prone to react really quickly. And occasionally we've had instances where somebody posts something and one of our staff reads it, and we immediately fix a problem that we didn't even know happened. It's just another good outlet for us to be able to react quickly to whatever concerns, problems, etc. may be had. And we love to, of course, hear the positive about new rides, new attractions, etc. What did work? We always enjoy those.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. It helps us to know that at least we're helping a little bit.
I think you're helping a lot, actually.
Well, I don't have any further questions. If Jack, do you have any further questions, or Mike, do you have anything for us in closing at all?
You know, I just say thank you guys for being fans, promoting our business, being arbiters of right, wrong, and indifferent, and really creating a fan base that otherwise wouldn't exist without you. So thank you, and your work is deeply appreciated by the folks around here.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's likewise. I mean, Adventureland's always just the bright spot of the summer. Usually everything's good, but Adventureland is really something that I look forward to every year.
For sure.
We look forward to guests every year, new guests, old guests. We like to make sure that we have kind of that something new for everybody every year. You just might have to look for it a little harder some years than others.
All right. Well, that's all we have. In closing, we just want to make sure everybody goes and finds our page, Iowa Theme Park Podcast, for updates on future episodes about Iowa's theme parks. And again, Mike, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we'll be back, I don't know, hopefully sometime in the next month for the next episode.
All right.
This has been the Iowa Theme Park Podcast, show number 1, with your hosts, Nick McMahon and Jack Sailsbury. Stay in touch with them on Facebook. Search for the Iowa Theme Park Podcast and let them know what you'd like to hear on a future episode. To talk more about Adventureland, look for the Adventureland Iowa Fans unofficial Facebook page. Until next time, this is your announcer, Alan, saying, have fun.